So many of you in the audience today are in your middle and high school years. And I remember when I was your age, I started to ask the questions, who am I? And what am I capable of? And as I got older and I went to college and work started to become more collaborative, those questions never really went away, but they started to become, who are we and what are we capable of? Well, we are Generation Z, a multifaceted, driven group of individuals who have used technology, hyperconnectivity, and instant access to information to accomplish two really unique things. First, innovative thoughts sparked by teenagers no longer have to be filtered through another generation's prism in order to serve the public interest. And second, we've been exposed to a multitude of identities, attitudes, and perspectives. And our generation has taken these two things, the ability to have and execute our own ideas, and the inclusion of thoughts and cultures, and combine them to create diverse frameworks in which we can problem solve within and find unique solutions to complex issues. And today, I want to talk about one of those issues, capitalism, and how our generation is not only at the forefront of calling out this flawed system, but has already begun to implement creative solutions addressing the massive inequality caused by it. Now, the problem of rising inequality around the globe is really due to wealth concentration. In 2017, it was announced that 8 people own more wealth than the bottom half of the entire world's population. 8 people. Now, it doesn't matter what you believe with regard to rewarding hard work. This is simply not sustainable. But, contrary to popular belief, we didn't end up here because all rich people are evil manipulators of a rigged system. In reality, it's that our economic system just works on their behalf. What do I mean by that? Well, wealth acts like a magnet. And the bigger the magnet, the greater the pull. And that's how our economic system is built. But for poorer people, people with no magnet, it's really hard to attract anything. And if you could somehow get a magnet, it's really hard to hold on to it. 250 years ago, when modern capitalism was formed, we all started to preach that free markets would regulate wealth, and this invisible force, this invisible hand, would guarantee we had competition in the economy, and we'd find this equilibrium that would pay out social benefits to everybody. And many of us grew up hearing that economic growth is the rising tide that lifts all boats. But that saying ignores the plight of millions who are clinging onto leaky rafts or have no boats at all. This antiquated view of capitalism offers no solutions to the current economic problems we face. Sure, capitalism has produced rapid technological advancements, but at the cost of massive inequality. And if we really want to solve this, we can't just rely on philanthropic initiatives and government programs. We need to change the system itself. So how do we do that? Well, first, we need to change our understanding of human behavior. Because right now, we act like everyone is personal gain seeking, and making the most money possible is your ultimate goal. And we've structured incentives and the system around accomplishing this goal. And these incentives and the system is enforcing behavior like greed, exploitation, and selfishness. But we all know we would never raise our kids to be intentionally selfish because we aren't capitalistic people by nature. We're just real people. And real people enjoy relationships with other people. And yeah, sometimes we're selfish, but we're just as often trusting, caring, and selfless. And yes, we do work to make money for ourselves, but also to help others and better our society, protect our environment, and spread happiness in the world. But even though this is our reality, we're constantly told by business leaders, government officials, and economists that the capitalistic person reigns supreme, and being selfish is your most rational purpose. And structure is purpose expressed through design. But with a flawed understanding of our purpose, we're getting a flawed design and structure. We're actually making it harder for people to practice the intrinsic selflessness we inherently prefer. So we need a whole new way of thinking. And that's where our generation comes in. Because our generation has combined our belief that our own well-being is integrally related to the well-being of others with our unique problem-solving skills, and pretty much figured out that instead of starting with capitalism and asking, how do I redesign this thing? We should start with human life and all life on planet Earth and ask, how do we generate the conditions for life's flourishing? And when we look at it from this perspective, two fundamental changes are necessary. First, we need to embrace the concept of social business, a type of business that is literally based off of selflessness, a type of business that isn't trying to maximize profit in the short term, but be self-sustaining over the long term, a type of business that doesn't fit in the traditional categories of for-profit or non-profit, but stands alone in its own category for more than profit. And second, we need to replace our assumption that humans are job seekers with the truth that humans are entrepreneurs. That is, we want to follow our hearts, passions, be the creators of our future, and make money doing it. Our individual pursuits of happiness should not be thwarted by capitalism, but rather augmented by the possibilities our economic system provides. And when we look at it from this framework, and our generation is combining these two things, social business and entrepreneurship, and are becoming the leaders of a new field, social entrepreneurship. A type of field in which you do try and win a large piece of the pie, but you ensure the winnings you collect are distributed fairly and the resources you collect are used for a greater good. Because traditional capitalism is good for winning ideas to collect resources, like startup capital. But the way these resources are dispersed into society must have an element that is socially conscious and socially aware. And when we look at it from this framework, we see a whole new world of possibility. A world in which Gen Z entrepreneurs on university campuses are advancing renewable energies and technologies and forcing investors to pay attention. Social impact investing is rapidly growing. And by doing this, we're making capital automatically flow into the right direction. As a social entrepreneur myself, I am genuinely inspired every day by what our generation is doing. It's a massive movement that for now seems to be working discreetly in the background, but soon enough will be the revolution that capitalism so desperately needs. Instead of growing up fantasizing about making our first million, our generation is growing up dreaming about how we're going to help 1 million people. And social entrepreneurship is proving that if you can execute that, you'll make millions doing it. Because in the world of social entrepreneurship, money and numbers don't lead, they follow. We need to go back to our intrinsic desire to serve the community as a way to feed the self. And when we do that, we will create a fairer system. And a fairer system is a more resilient system. And guess what? Thousands of people from around the world have started to build this new version of capitalism. For example, in Bangladesh, there's a bank called Grameen Bank, and they operate entirely off of trust. No collateral is needed. You don't have to prove your creditworthiness. You don't have to show them any documents. And most of the borrowers are completely illiterate or have no assets. These borrowers are the women of Bangladesh, who previously couldn't participate and compete in the financial markets. The idea of lending money to these women is ludicrous, and by conventional business standards, impossible to sustain. But today, Grameen Bank lends out over $2.5 billion per year to 9 million women and enjoys a repayment rate of 98.96%. This proves that we can't put all the blame on free markets. It needs to go to something beyond that, to the way we've interpreted human behavior in capitalistic theory. That's the root cause. Because right now, we've designed a system that restricts who can compete to selfish people. But if we can redesign it and allow selflessness-driven individuals as well, the situation changes completely. The old ways of addressing inequality through charitable donations and welfare programs will not adequately address the current economic disparities we face. Our generation will solve it by breaking away from the traditional capitalistic mindset and embracing selflessness-driven businesses. And when we do that together as a generation, we actually will change this world. And if we all take the lead in solving human problems, we won't just slow down, but as Nobel Peace Prize recipient Muhammad Yunus says, we will ultimately reverse the whole process of wealth concentration. And businesses are going to be forced to allocate time, money, and resources into harnessing the power of our selflessness-driven businesses. And governments are going to be forced to pass policies that facilitate the creation and expansion of our initiatives. And as a result, the momentum for change, led by Gen Z, will become unstoppable. We will create a system that provides equal opportunity for all. Thank you.